If you ever feel very frustrated that in your mind you're always comparing yourself with someone else and you're so tired of competition and comparison, I want to start by sharing one of my childhood stories. When I was a kid, I was actually doing academically quite well. I have really good grades at school. In my environment, I was one of the top students. But every time I felt like I made or achieved academic success, sometimes I will hear this news from my mom about one of my cousins. She's in a totally different environment. She was studying abroad, and her parents were financially doing much better than my parents, so they were able to send her to ballet classes, piano classes, and she started from international private kindergarten to private high school, and she was able to study in other countries. So obviously, like at the time, my parents wouldn't be able to afford me for all kinds of these kind of classes, and it was just like physically impossible for me to study abroad. But in my mind, I started to compare myself with her. And every time my mom shared these news with me, in my mind, I kind of beat myself up for like not doing good enough, not being as successful as she was, even though like she was given all these resources from her parents. But I still compare myself with her. It sounded very ridiculous, but as a kid, I felt like I wasn't good enough. So every time I make success or academic success or achievement at school, I started to think, oh, but maybe she's doing much better than me. My success is not even anything. It's not noticeable. So I wasn't like really celebrating my success along the way. Now, I'm not saying academic success is very important. Just as a kid, I did not know better. That's how I compare myself with the other people. And as I grew up, there are more and more things to compare, like the look, my weight, how I walk, how I talk. There's so many things, so many aspects that you can compare yourself with. But it all changed one day when I actually met up with a cousin and I started to talk to her. And I realized that all these comparison or competition that happened in my mind means nothing. I realized she has a very different personality than me, from me, and she has an entirely different worldview and life goal. I am just comparing myself to someone that's totally in another universe. And I've been doing like things very unfair to myself and beat myself up all along the way and miss the opportunity to celebrate my own success. Or I still have those thoughts circling around in my mind, and they still trigger a lot of negative emotions at times. But I figured ways to see this as an opportunity to discover more about myself instead of simply falling into the trap of competition and comparison. First of all, if there is comparison, there is competition. Then someone will lose and someone will win. This is a zero-sum game. That's why it is so stressful and triggers fight or flight situation. And the society always sets very limited amount of standards for many things like success, appearance, physique, status. If we automatically put ourselves into these models and standards, every day will just seem like a rat race. That is not freedom, and that is not happiness either. And we were just confined ourselves in such a small cage and comparing ourselves with something that we might never win against. So I think the first step is to realize that everyone has very different life goals, and everyone has their own timeline of moving towards that goal. And to compare where I am and where they are just fundamentally nonsense. It is Like compare the speed of a shark and the speed of a car. The speed number is comparable, but a shark and a car, they move for different purposes. Shark might be moving to hunt for the food, but the cars are moving because people are driving them and get to work or get to locations. So because they're for different purposes, it makes no sense to compare them, and they're operating in different environments as well. So understanding that person is in an entirely different environment than us, we have different goals, different life goals, will make you realize that will pull yourself back to your own goals. Like, what is my goal? It's different from theirs. Be very determined on what your goal is will kind of help you step back a little bit. Another thing is that we didn't get to choose our family backgrounds and the resources we were born with. On that matter, it can always be unfair if you compare those things, family backgrounds and resources. What is fear is our ability to learn different perspectives, to look at the world, and we have the same equal opportunities to choose happiness, to choose peace, to feel peace in our mind. Know that material success does not always bring the long-lasting peace and happiness. They might bring ecstasy for like 1 or 2 weeks, but after that, long-lasting peace and happiness comes from within. Another thing to do is to pull the energy and focus back to ourselves. When we compare ourselves with others, we put ourselves in other people's timeline, we put ourselves in other people's stories, and we make them the center of our world. That is why we feel very frustrated, because you're giving away the heroine character to someone else. But in truth, we are the center and the heroine of our own world. No matter how successful other people are, they're not the hero in our story, in our timeline, and we are. Last thing I want to say is to sit with the feeling and dig deeper into why we feel this way, why we keep playing this competition and comparison in our mind. Is it related to some incidents that happened in our past, that when we're in our survival mode, we have to compare ourselves in order to survive in certain environments? You can journal that down, sit with yourself, and ask why I am feeling like this. Oftentimes, when we're feeling inferior, it is a road sign leading us and telling us that we haven't validated our own value enough. We haven't seen our unique strength, and we have to look hard enough to see what is within ourselves, what is our unique self, and we need to develop the ability to be authentic.